But Michelle is the one who taught me this. Don't get upset at them. You know, that they're not taking the medicines. Tell them, you know, if the sugar comes down, you feel better. You'll be able to take care of your grandchildren. And that is what it works. So the messenger, I know that when I'm treating patients, regardless of the country, you know, I am half the medicine. You know, I am the medicine half the time. And if you think that your knowledge, etc., is the sole, gives you the result, you're not right. And that's why PTs, OTs, and pharmacists contribute to the healthcare. Even in the United States, they have done a study to show in which the pharmacists participated in diabetes care. That means when they went to get the pharmacy medication, the pharmacist will sit and chat with them for a while. And after a while, it can show them that, you know, hemoglobin A1C came down, the blood sugar came down, the blood pressure came down. And also, this is something that nobody pays attention to. You know, in the United States, lower income, higher obesity, and higher poverty, not higher poverty, high diabetes, and lower education. Also, you have to take into consideration that what you can do for upper middle class white people in Minnesota, Minneapolis, you can do that in Macy. And one of the things you will learn from the Indians is that how to communicate. You know, I may have a lot of knowledge. If I cannot communicate to the patient, it's worthless. You know, so you're able to knowledge to be knowledge, it has to be communicated. And if you think about that, you know, if a patient comes, that I'm going to make sure that he or she gets some knowledge, that it was successful. Indians, you know, like Spanish, English, Portuguese, but they are not. Kickapoos, I go to visit Mexican, they said, we lived 150 years in Mexico. We didn't become Mexicans. We are Kickapoos. Now we live in the United States. We are not Americans. We are Kickapoos. So that the way of thinking for many of the indigenous people, just because an outside culture has come in, it's not changed. And as I told you, acculturation occurs. It's natural. That doesn't mean that, you know, people who have got a PhD, an Indian who has got a PhD, he's going to think like a white person. You know? Now, I have to go through some of this. I have a lot to say, so I'm going to touch on some of these things, you know, and I'll put a lot of information on the web. If you're interested in, you can read it. You know, one of the things is that what is cultural and what is chemical. You know, that you will hear a lot more about endocrine disrupting chemicals, and especially for a woman, that, you know, we have got thousands and thousands of tons of chemicals which are in the system, which are interfering with our hormonal basis, hormonal things. Like, for example, bisphenol A. You would hear about bisphenol A. It's that food containers, milk, water, infant bottles, medical device, mobile phone, etc. Bisphenol A is related to so many of the diseases we have. And also, many of you would know that the plastic bottles have number underneath them. Did you know that? There's a number underneath the plastic bottles. Higher the number, worse it is. And don't ever use plastic to microwave, because some of the chemicals, because it's all made from plasticizers to make it hard. And you look at those exercise bottles, you know, the thick plastic, that's very bad, because you'll have 5 underneath them. Whereas the regular water bottle, you have 1 underneath them. You know, immigration, we just were talking to the doctor in pharmacology. We don't pay a lot of attention to immigration because most of us in this room have not migrated. But some of us have, or some of us have traveled. So that you look at it, Mexican Americans and Filipino Americans are the 2 groups who have got very low levels of health status in this country. And you know, and you can realize that these are a couple who are from San Antonio, and I have a clinic in northern Mexico, and they came to see me in Mexico because they were not pleased with what they were getting in San Antonio. It's that it's always adjusting to another culture, especially you are, you know, it's okay, you have a PhD or an MD, you are coming here as a doctor working, then you're coming at a different level. Not if you're making a bed at the hotel, And so at a different level you're entering, and the oppression is different. The fattest countries in the world now are Cook Islands, is a colony of New Zealand, Nauru, which was the next colony of Australia. When I say obesity, you've not seen anything like this, obese. Marshall Island is a colony of the United States. Kuwait is a client state. I don't know whether I should be happy, because the Gulf countries have gained so much money from petrol. I have the pleasure to inform you that Dubai will soon be the fattest country on earth, will have the highest rate of diabetes in the world. So you can be happy about it, you can be sad about it. There are 40 non-stop flights between Dubai and the United States a week. So that is, and Halliburton has just moved there. So people will say it's a race, A lot of times people say, the black people have high blood pressure because they're black. I've compared the black people in Cuba. Black people in Cuba, their hypertension is no more than the hypertension of white people. Because in Cuba, there is a dignity about being black, Two countries that I feel that the black people have got dignity because of the revolution is the Cuban blacks and the blacks in the northeastern part of Brazil. And so you can't say it is a race. So these are three groups of Polynesians. One was colonized by English Protestants, and they're 100% obese. Just think of it. In the United States, obesity is between 20 and 30%. When you think that 100% of the people under the age 30, over the age 30, are obese. So let's go to Tahiti. It's the same people, racially the same people. They're much less obesity. The Catholic and the Spanish Catholic has even less, because the conquistadores didn't mind if your belief system as long as you became Catholic. Whereas the Protestants, the London Missionary Society, when they went, they said it's either us or nothing. So that many of the English-speaking Polynesian islands don't have their earlier religious worship, whereas the Catholic countries do. So you can't say it is just race. And this is a thing that interests me a lot, is that really, if somebody feels an oppression or living in a place where it's stressed being different than others, always will have health problems, because you're lucky, you're living in your own country. There is a pleasure of living in your own country, believe you me, because when I'm comfortable here, I'm not saying that I'm upset, but there is a pleasure when you're in your own country. Oppression is always followed by obesity. So you can see that the oppression, which was for other cultures, now has become common among white people of Australia. But the oppression is stress. The stress has increased enormously living in Australia and living in the United States. Okay, a couple of questions. How much chemicals? How much chemicals? I mean chemicals. How much chemicals an average American eats? Is 100 pounds a year. And do Americans eat more or less sugar now than in 1970? I'll show you the answer. Americans eat far less sugar now. But they eat artificial things like high fructose corn syrup and things like that. What makes you gain weight? Sugar or artificial sweetener? Makes no difference. If you think that I'm having a little Splenda or a little whatever, that blue thing, I like brown cane sugar. So it makes no difference. And as I mentioned to you before, 1 can of soda can change your metabolism. And I see, met this doctor, and people who are from another culture, the damage is even faster. When to prescribe chocolate? Would you prescribe chocolate to a patient with diabetes? I do. But I prescribe chocolate, not candy, because candy has very little chocolate. Hershey bar has 10 or 11%. Nestle has about 2% chocolate. But this is about sugar, okay? You can see that Americans eat about 45 pounds less of sugar now than 30 years ago. The sugar consumption has come down. High fructose corn syrup, high fructose corn syrup is another lecture some other time.